for us about our work.
Yeah.
We can also answer questions about it. You don't have to tell us about your love lives.
Writer questions, rotary questions.
Rotary? Like how to use a rotary?
Like the Rotary Association.
What is that? Like when you say
I'm not qualified to answer questions about the rotary.
I think we should have them questions.
What about Portland questions? What's up with the rug at the airport? What the hell?
Oh, it's a point of municipal pride.
Yes.
Why?
It's new now, though. They got rid of the old rug.
Oh.
Everybody was,
It's a deeper green.
which everybody was very upset about, and they auctioned, you could like buy
It's dirty, but yeah.
pieces
Oh,
of the
really?
carpet.
You can buy
Yes.
socks
Filthy
for
carpet.
the carpet.
Yeah.
For your
Sell
home.
anything.
Yes, people are weirdly attached to it. And I can't tell the difference between the new one and the, I know it's looking
Oh,
different, but I
so
can't remember what
the
the
A
old one
concourse,
looks
I worked at the airport for a while. The A concourse still has the old carpet.
like. She was a bookseller at the airport.
I worked at
Wow.
Palace.
Clarify that you were.
Oh.
Weird.
I wasn't like out there doing.
That's right. Oh, you would look great though.
I would, thank you, Brenner.
Very, very trite question.
Yes.
Did you teach in China?
I did.
Okay.
I lived there in 2004 for 6 months, and I taught at the Shanghai Singapore International School. I taught first grade speech classes, so that is in the book. Liz has the job that I basically had. It was a very strange position where I wasn't teaching an actual class. They just liked the idea that I was an American. And so they created this thing they called speech class that had no curriculum, and it was just me going in to talk to 25 first graders for different periods of the day, and I just had to like think of things to do with them, and I didn't know what I was doing.
I have a recurring nightmare of this exactly.
Yeah. It was better than what they first asked me when I first arrived, having been hired to teach English. They asked me which musical instruments I played because suddenly they needed a music teacher. And I said none, and the principal said, so only the piano? I was like, no, no instruments at all. And then I had to substitute teach the music class for a week, and I brought in I like had a little portable CD player, and I just brought in my CD collection, and we like listened to Diggable Planets.
That's another recurring.
So yeah, that was my teaching experience in China.
Wow. How long were you for the year? I guess?
I was there for 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you used, is there only the piano? Have you used that somewhere?
That's really-
Or can I
Oh, it's
steal
in the
it?
book. I put
Okay.
that in the
All
book.
right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Any more questions? We have some distinguished authors in the.
All right, has anybody here, if they've tried, been able to have any influence at all on what's been used as the cover of your books?
Not a bit, sir.
Oh, see, I had a lot of influence. This is I think the difference between small press publishing and big houses. So Josh and I are both published by 713 Books. Our publisher, Leland Chook, I think gives a lot of author leeway.
Basically, he lets you do whatever you want.
Right.
Right. I mean, he said you can have whatever you want on your cover, and so I asked a local Austin artist to do the cover, and I knew the book was coming out for almost 2 years, so we worked on it for a really long time, talking, throwing ideas back and forth, and then come to find out, she doesn't really know how to lay out a book or anything, so there was a lot of like that going on too, and he was very patient. I mean, we even had up till the day the book was coming out, he said, oh, Amazon is writing us and saying that the whatever the specs or whatever are still not right. And I'm like, really? On the day the book came out? That's awesome. But yeah, and that was because it was almost so much free reign that we could, even the like specs weren't
I didn't hear that story.
Oh yeah. But it's great because the book is exactly what I wanted, and I hear a lot of stories like what you're talking about, where people are saying, I got this cover and there's nothing I can do about it, or titles, even that. Like,
Title?
Yeah, people say that you can't use that title, you got to use another title.
Amy can tell you about that.
Oh, all right. yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
But for the whole time, I had my title, I had my cover.
Yeah. I had a little bit less input. I asked for a specific cover designer who I know had done one of 713's other books, and she's a Portland cover designer, and I just have always loved her work. So I sent her some ideas of, I had an idea of like an object on the front of the cover, and I said there are a couple relevant objects in the book that could work. And so she did this. When I got the first version of the cover to approve, Leland said, so yeah, the cover looks great. Gigi made that box. And I was
She
like,
made that?
well, so I was like, she carved a freaking box out of wood, and like then to take a picture of it. And then I started getting in my head like, oh, maybe she's gonna give me the box. So, and then Gigi put together this really wonderful, she blogs about her process, and so she had this long blog post about it, and it turned out she made it in Photoshop.
Oh.
Right.
So she did this design as a flat design, and then she took a photo of a plain wood box and layered that on, and then she went in with an eraser tool and kind of carved it so it looked like carving. So that's how she made the box. So
Cool.
I didn't get a box.
I'm sorry.
But she was behind in our cover process, and when I finally got, I thought I was going to see 2 or 3 different concepts, but this was the only concept in just a couple of different colors because it took her, she got so obsessive about the box that that was all she had time to do. So she was like, I'm so glad you liked it, because that's all I got. But it was perfect, and yeah, so I got to weigh in on the color and the font choices, and yeah. that's
See,
what
with mine, the title is Not Everyone is Special, and we just were thinking and like what it would look like. And the artist, we were really into New Yorker covers at the time, and there was all these great ones with like Trump like blowing into a sailboat that had a hole in it, and anybody see that? But it was so simple, and it was just hand drawn, and you know, it was just like you could tell what it was, but it wasn't like a perfect likeness. And so I was trying to come up with an image like that, just like one image, and I just wrote her one day and I said, you know, it'd be really funny, because I think the book's funny because I wrote it, but I said I kind of want the cover to be funny too, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if we had a big blue ribbon that said, not everyone is special? And she was like, yeah, I could do that. And then she put all these pictures up of her online, like taking a ribbon, and like, because on the back I wanted it kind of crumpled up, so she was crumpling it up and taking pictures, and then she does it with like watercolors. It's pretty cool. It was a lot of fun to do. I never see in my mind now, any book I ever do, that's how it's going to go, but it's not, right?
Do you want to hear my story?
Yeah.
I have a question I want to ask before.
Yeah.
I have to go to the babysitter, but I really want to ask about your writing.
Sure.
About like writing about love specifically, because that is the theme tonight. I find it very hard to write about love. I have now written like my 3rd book, and I don't know that there's like any love in it. I mean, like romantic
No
love.
love signs.
I'm curious
No love
what
signs.
your- So I want to ask, is love, like romantic love, really hard to write about for everyone? What makes it hard to write? Or your favorite topic?
One of the critiques that I've gotten from Every Anxious Wave readers is that they don't believe Carl and Lena's relationship. They don't understand why Carl is drawn to Lena or why Lena wants to date Carl. And I explain it this way, which is that Carl's 40 and like he's like, oh, girl, yes. Like he's not, you know. There are guys like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I think love is interesting because I think the way you feel about people and you don't have to act like I couldn't write a scene like you wrote. You know, I don't think I could do that unless they were breaking up or it was really horrible, right? But it was like going terribly. Like I could write really good terrible sex scenes where like it's not happening. But I couldn't do that. But what I do think is that when you have someone that loves someone, it kind of affects every other decision they make and all the other stuff that they do. So the way I address love is to kind of like look at how that love is affecting all this other stuff that they have going on in their life. Because I think people are always doing something with another thing in mind, with someone else in mind, or a goal in mind. And like I always write about like people that don't have it together. Like Leland, our publisher, called my stories slacker and fabulous because they have all this weird stuff in there, but everybody's a total mess. But Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I think that's what I think of is how it affects the decisions they make.
Yeah, that's a good.
But and so if you look at it that way, you probably have all kinds of love.
Well, yeah, there's love in there, but I mean, I am curious specifically to hear Melissa answer the
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
because I think you have the only, romantic love that
Yeah.
it's probably not going to go well. I can sense that it's not going well, but,
Well, and I can tell you some things without spoiling anything. You know from the first page of the book that the relationship did not last.
Sure.
And so the whole book is Sasha trying to figure out why. And that the book is told in her perspective, looking back over the relationship and projecting herself into scenes and characters' heads where she couldn't possibly be. So it's like a first-person omniscient narrator. I find relationships, when they are going wrong, really interesting to write about. So that's, so there are some good, I think that's probably the only scene in the book where you're like, oh, this is awesome, this is going to be great.
It's harder to write that, right?
Yeah, well, I
They
think,
said harder to write.
I think it's harder to write because where's the tension?
Yeah.
If it's just like two happy people in love, where's the tension? I liked writing this perspective because I think the question of like why things go wrong between two people is really interesting, and like having someone who's really kind of torn up about a relationship that's ended and trying to explore what happened there is, yeah.
You know what else too is that when you're just writing about true love, like people falling in love, it just doesn't feel believable. And that's why you have to problem. You're like, no fucking way.
Is it the banality of it? Like
Yeah,
the,
maybe.
The Tolstoy, all happy families are alike, all happy couples are alike.
I think that, speaking for every anxious way, which I know that you've read, there is tension there.
Well, not all the way through.
In life,
Of
happy
course I-
couples have a lot of tension.
Yeah,
Right,
totally.
Right? I mean,
But you're writing about the happiness of it, isn't that expressed rather in some sort of banal mode of affection and
Evil is banal, the banality of evil. I've heard that before. I talk about it all the time.
It's being banal.
Yeah. No, I think it depends on the skill of the writer.
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
characters too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you go, could you touch a little bit on what when they were talking about like no input on title, no input on on cover? What do you have something you can share?
I write in the crime genre, suspense. So my book had a title that was considered too literary. My first book, and they retitled it. They retitled it to sound more like something like Gone Girl.
What was it? What was it originally?
It was originally called Other People's Daughters, which was like
That is cool.
typographically a mess, apparently.
Oh, okay.
All kinds of bad things about it. So it got changed to Good as Gone. It's just like clean,
Oh, I
bam,
read that.
bam. It's like,
Hey, nice to meet you. Do you know Hillary Ann Crosby?
I do.
Yeah, so
Very
she's friends with my wife.
Oh, no kidding.
And she was reading that book, and then she told us to read it, and we both read it.
I adore
We enjoyed
Hillary
it.
Ann.
Yeah, me too. I
This
miss
is
her.
how books get sold.
I miss
people.
her.
It's hand-selling. Hand-selling.
It's a fun
Well,
time
I
to
hate
have to
that
read here.
type.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. Nice
yeah.
to meet you.
I had kind of a question too about because you're the one you wrote nonfiction or you read nonfiction.
I did.
And I don't think I've ever read you writing about music, but I felt like that was such an incredible. Having just tried to write about music, I was like, wow, that's.
What do you mean
how
tried?
write
You
about
come
music. Yeah, but I was like, first of all, I was like, Mo needs to write a 33 and a 30.
I have plans to write one about.
Here's a guy who wrote a
Yeah.
33 and a 30.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hi. How's it going? Matt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was such an incredibly kind of gut punch, and I've read a lot of personal essays mixed with music criticism before, but I found that one to be. I felt like I was actually kind of hearing the song, despite the fact that you didn't talk very much about the song.
I cut out the parts about the song for
Yeah.
brevity.
It's a
But
bad
you can read
song.
it at marchflatness.com.
I will. I will do that. But anyway, yeah, it's
Maybe
bravo
you should
on that.
enter the March.
You should write to Andrew Munson.
Enter it next year. It'll be a different theme.
Next
It'll
year
be
it's
about
March-
It'll be about music.
It's March Badness. It's.
I hate writing about music. It's even worse than writing about love. I find them both very difficult. Perhaps for similar reasons. indescribable.
Yeah, one of my, I want to do a 33 1/3 about Art Garfunkel's first solo album, Angel Player.
Oh, geez.
Right? It's a weird mess. And it's called Angel Claire, which is the character in Thomas Hardy's Test of the D'Urberville. Who would name an album after that jerk face?
An awesome guy.
Very excited for this book.
Yeah?
I hope to see
Yeah.
it.
So could you, we were originally going to tell your story about the cover
Oh.
and what happened?
Well, I was published by one of the big 5 publishers, so I was
Your
told.
cover is fucking awesome.
I was told you don't, unless you like super hate it. Are you leaving, Amy?
She was trying to
Unless I like completely objected to it, I didn't have a say. But then I got it and I loved it, and that's the story.
Right.
It's a cover that could be sold
It
as
won an
just a
award.
poster without a book. Yeah, it's really kind of awesome, yeah. But that's so unusual.
What, did you have trouble with the name, with the title?
No.
Okay.
No, I was surprised that they were into it. So Every Anxious Wave is a line from a song by the band Sebadoh.
Mhm.
And so Lou Barlow of Sebadoh, I approached him at a show at Red 7 in fall of
Which is no longer there.
Yeah. And I was like, hey Lou, is it cool if I call my book Every Anxious Wave, like Every Anxious Wave rode through to find me lying safe with you? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. Done!
Is there a school where they teach every musician to talk like that?
So he signed a release with the publisher. I sent him a copy of the book when it came out, and he never thanked me. And then I saw him play in Portland a month ago. And I didn't.
He was like, hey, I read your book.
He wasn't, and I wasn't like, hey, did you get that book I sent you 4 years ago? Whatever. 3 years ago. No. That's good. Any other questions, friends?
We gotta get her back.
What's the podcast again? Sorry, no love sign?
No Love Signs. It's got a theme song too. You want to hear the theme song?
Yeah.
I haven't, yeah.
Who did the theme song?
My friend Phila Jericho, who used to live here, who now lives in Portland.
I was most guest on her first episode of No Love Signs. That was before it had a theme
It
song.
didn't have, your episode
But-
does not have the
Do,
song.
do, do, do.